everyone. I see some comments about how hot it is out there. Definitely trying to keep it cool today. Luminous Cloud asks, electro or techno today? Well, we've been trying to put the titles up ahead of time. If it says techno, usually you can expect techno. Sometimes I flip it, but yeah, on the techno side today. But not too banging. Let's see. Who was first today? William Mindreaders. No kidding. Number 1, Acid Bat. Number 2, Save Techno. I believe, Save Techno. DJ Emo's back with the ill behavior. D4 Damager, power to the people, or whatever. Isn't that how it goes? New Drexian, nice to see you. Monsieur Supreme. Lee Robinson. Future World Machines. I love going through all the names and shouting you all out and saying welcome, welcome. Absent is here. Lee. Oh, I said Lee Robinson. Okay, Lee Robinson again. Simple Sam is here. Soul Machine is here. Hello, New York. The aforementioned Luminous Cloud. I think that's it for everybody in the chat currently, although I imagine it may expand. I hope it will. And to all of those out there who aren't in the chat and were watching, glad you're here too. Feel free to chime in and say hey. All right. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, John Selway here. Nice to see you. It's Techno Saturday today. This is 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs and 343 Studio and 343 Everything. Like I said, trying to keep it cool today. Let's not fly off the handle right at the top of the show. Let's keep it chill. It is hot. It has been hot. I know a lot of the world is hot. I'm reading about drought in places that normally don't have it. Even here in New York, it's so dry. It's humid and hot, but there hasn't been enough rain except for a few heavy-duty storms now and again. Even I was reading about somewhere, like England, UK has some drought and not looking good. Let's not get too down on the world state of affairs and global warming, but it is always in the background. It is on my mind. Thankfully today in New York, it's a beautiful day. It's a little less hot. Actually, this morning it was like cool almost. I don't know Celsius. I know a lot of you guys are in Europe and you think about Celsius, but in Fahrenheit it was like 65 this morning, which is real nice. And there's a lot of people out on walking, running, riding their bikes. We have these open streets sometimes here in New York on the weekends in the summer, and kind of nice out there. Families and with kids riding their bikes around. Special events. I was riding around this morning, do some errands before the show, and it was great. So anyway, that 343 Labs is a music production school, and we do online classes and in-person classes in New York City and in Berlin. I'm about to start a intensive, well, not too intense, but sort of a mini course, 6 classes on techno production next week. Maybe some of you out there watching have signed up for it. Let us know. I don't know how many people are in the class. They'll let me know soon how many students we're going to have, but I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun hanging out and making techno with you guys, or some of you. And we have our studio program. It's the subscription-based thing. You can join up and get your feedback, mentoring sessions, collab sessions, special master classes from visiting artists, things like that, different kinds of workshops. So yeah, we do that. And if you want to know more about that, of course, there are the links in the description. You can click through and get some more details. If you haven't already joined our Discord, definitely do that. And, I would be remiss if I did not remind everyone, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And, click the like button, all of that stuff that I'm supposed to say as a guy on YouTube. Definitely helps us out. Right. So I had an idea last night, which was, and I've done this kind of thing before, maybe not, I don't remember how, if it was on the stream, it might have been a couple years, well, year and a half ago, maybe. But there's kind of a technique that, there's all sorts of videos on using vocoders with other things besides vocals, right? For example, using drums to go through the vocals. And, it's a known thing, but it's a favorite of mine. And I like using it's a good approach for doing kind of complex, filtery, percussion-y dub techno kind of grooves. And I just had this idea just popped into my head last night. So I started working on a new track with this as the basis for the main kind of sound and built up some, percussion around that. And it's on the dub techno side, right? And it can go real deep and spacey, or it can get kind of more ramped up and more energetic and bright. And I don't know. That's where we're starting today, is how I set this up. We can listen to it for a second and then get into the groove of it and then break it down and, see what the magic sauce is that makes it all work. So let's get over here onto the main screen and let her rip. I'm going to turn the monitors up in here because, man, I was grooving to this earlier, dancing around. It sounded real good when I turned the speakers up. So, ooh, gotta say something about the Luminous Cloud. You did a mentorship session. That's right. And your only complaint is not enough Selway mentorship sessions. Well, we gotta spread the work around between the different instructors, but I will pass along your comment for sure. Thank you. Happy to do it. All right, so this is the groove, right? Kind of a little busy. It gives me like, Detroit-y, future, positive, speeding through the universe vibes, which is like one of my favorite feelings to get when I listen to techno, like musical techno. Let's hear what it sounds like with the beats. Nothing groundbreaking, but it's got that a little housey, right? It has kind of a jack to it, bouncy. And I'm doing the kind of offbeat in between the kick bass stabs that give it a bit of a dubbiness. Let's hear that beat without the chords, actually. Totally, like, once you take those chords out, it's straight, more kind of minimal, jacky sort of thing. I could put a squiggly SH101 lead line and be like DBX or X-Track or something like that, or something Chicago-y. Always love dancing to a groove like this. I'm gonna bring back the dubbiness, the dub techno-iness. Honestly, guys, I would just be happy sitting here dancing and listening to this. Maybe not for the whole hour, but this kind of groove just takes over my brain. All right. Let's see what's under the hood. Okay. So the starting point for this was to build up a big chord with a bunch of really interesting notes. All right, so this is where we started. Let's go ahead and listen to this. Right, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of notes. That's a lot of voices. Hey, John H. Kingston made it. Welcome. He's definitely, you are definitely first. You're like the overall winner of first in the chat. Definitely. You've been there before everybody many, many times. But I don't care whether you're first or not. I'm just happy that you're back. All right. So this is what it looks like. And I did actually just start with one chord, but it was just, just picking a note. And actually, I didn't even start with this big, buzzy, bright sound. I started just with sine waves. Just picked out what I thought were interesting notes. I mean, I can do it again. What key am I in? A sharp. So like, why A sharp? I don't know, totally random. It was the pitch when I was thinking in my head. Like sometimes I imagine in my mind first a melody or a chord progression or something. And I thought, okay, and then that's the note I want. And then I started clicking around and it just happens to be an A sharp. So no particular reason. All right. And then I'm just picking notes that I think would be okay. Oops, no. Kind of want to keep it positive, not too many flat thirds in there. But I don't mind a little bit of dissonance in there. How does this sound? Like if this were a melody, would it be interesting to go between those notes? Those are the notes that I'm picking. And, whoa, that's maybe, I don't know. So let's go back and I'm actually going to do this too. Because in the beginning, it was just sine wave, right? And I was listening, how does this chord sound? Right, that's a different chord. And so I'm picking out notes that I like that might make a nice, big, rich, kind of sophisticated chord. And then I'm also thinking about like what this is going to sound like when I sort of expand on it. And because I'm using a vocoder, I want to have a big, full frequency sound going in that I can sculpt from, right? Because a vocoder is a filter, or many filters actually. So I want to give the vocoder a lot of information. It's the same when you do robot voices. It's like you need to get that sound, that big fat sound, you need a big fat waveform going into it. If you put something thin into it, it doesn't work as well, right? Filtering a filtered sound doesn't always go as well, right? Depends on what you're doing. All right, so maybe I want to even some higher and lower notes that I wouldn't play if I was just using this as a chord normally. But I still want them to be interesting harmony. All right, another thing you might be thinking about is like how many notes can you play? When I first started the process, I was using operator and wavetable, Live's wavetable, and it only has 8 voices, so I can't play a chord that big. So I switched over to Pigments. I wanted to use a wavetable so I could morph the sound around a little bit, so I switched over to Pigments because I can do 32 voices, so I can play a bunch of notes and really make it harmonically complex. And I'm going to put some lower notes in there for some subby kind of. All right. That's got to be enough, right? That is way too many voices. And it still isn't. I actually could use some more high ones. It's almost as if I'm doing additive synthesis with harmony. I'm just adding in interesting notes until it makes one big sound. Let's add some higher notes in there. Oop. All right. All right, that's a lot. That probably sounds I don't know what that sounds like over the stream. That's a lot. But, we're not going to hear that. We're not going to hear that. It's the carrier for the vocoder, right? We're going to filter this and kind of play around with it. But anyway, so the next step was like, all right, I want a brighter, more complex waveform. Whoa, that's really loud. Let's turn it down a little bit. Now, these are just basic waveforms, right? Triangle, sawtooth, square, but then we have all these other... Like, I want to be able to shift the tone around going into the vocoder as well to give that kind of variation that I can play with later. And I want something with upper harmonic, something brighter. That's interesting. It gets real thin. That might be a little too thin, but we could try it. Another thing with with the synth like this is I can add complexity to this using FM or phase modulation or phase distortion. Detuning that is interesting. All right, and then making this wider in stereo is going to be really cool. Live's vocoder is a stereo vocoder, and it has a left-right mode, so you get really cool panning going on inside of it. So it's starting to sound like an organ. I know that, but don't worry. It's not going to end up like this. All right, and then I'm still wanting some thickness and some bottom end, so actually over here in the utility engine, I'm adding a square wave. Right, and now that's a lot of material. That's going from sub-bass territory all the way up into shiny, bright air. That's how much frequency I want going into the vocoder, and then I can kind of reduce that with the filtering from the vocoder rhythmically, because the modulator I'm using for the vocoder are the drums, right? All right, so let's hear what that sounds like. Actually, first, let's hear what the drums are doing without the... which is, okay, busy, weird rhythm. All right, and how did I come up with that? Totally randomly. Anyway, let's hear what that sounds like now. All right, the vocoder's on. We hear nothing because there's no carrier, right? But you can see the signal from the drums is going into the vocoder. Let's hear what it sounds like with the carrier. I want to put the beat on again. Right? And now it's techno. It's not just like some big pipe organ. As Danica here says, what did you say? Full forearm organ? What is that? All right. Fun. And then if I go back to the wavetable, if I make changes to this, try a different wavetable. I mean, it's all similar because it's got that vocoder filteriness to it, but you can hear the little details as I sweep through the wavetable and play with the amount of modulation. That's more unison detuning, starts to get a little noisy. All right, so that's how I built it up. I'm actually going to turn that one on and go off. I'm going to turn that one off and go back to the original one that I think I actually like the results of this one a little bit better. Very similar, but I'm hearing some different sort of subtlety in the overtones as I sweep through the wavetable. let's actually also go back to my original chord progression, right? So, I started with just the one chord droning on, but then I decided to add a little bit of variation to it. So it's doing a bit of a progression by itself. Actually, let's hear that real quick. So it's a bit of a housey kind of a chord progression, actually. And the other thing I'm looking for here, all right, let's actually get into what the vocoder's doing. Because to get it to sound like this, I got to play around with it. This isn't just the default settings. I have it set to external for the carrier, and that's routed in from the Pigments track, right? That's just that straight big chord coming in. And then I've got the number of bands. I've got the range to play with. There's a gate here, which I can cut out signals below a certain level if I want. If I increase the gate, I get more just the transients, and it starts to get a little bit more choppy sounding. Which already, just that is would be a good way to start the track, because it's lighter. Uh-oh, my CPU's starting to have it already. That's a danger here. All right. My CPU is overheating. This has happened before on the stream. So what I'm going to do actually is, just for now, let's turn that unison off. It's not quite as rich sounding. Maybe lower number of voices. I kind of want to have... All right, cross your fingers that it holds on. I'm not going to add too much more to this sound, so we should be okay. Also, I just turned the delays off. So that's just the dry output of the vocoder, no delays or anything. Let's bring the gate back down so we get all of the frequencies coming through. And the range of this vocoder goes from 20 hertz to 18,000 hertz. And that's another thing I can play with to kind of modify the sound. And one of the things I wanted to point out was it's creating bass tones. When low frequency drums go in, if a kick or a tom go in, we're going to hear more of the low frequencies of it. And when the hi-hats and the other sounds come in, we're going to hear more of the high frequencies. And that's what's creating that variation. Actually, there's something else here that I want to turn off momentarily. And that really kind of nails home that, yes, this is filtering it, right? So I'm bringing the range of the low range up a little bit so it doesn't get too low. I don't want to all of a sudden hear a loud 20 hertz. It's going to be kind of muddy possibly. So I have it just going down to about 30, 40 for the subbiest hits coming out of the drum machine. And then I can determine how bright I want it to be with the upper range there. And then I have this, the depth and the release, and that's how closely it's tracking the input signal, and then how long the gate stays up or the envelope stays open after the carrier goes away. So I bring that release up, we hear more of the chord, right? That's another thing I want to play with. And the depth is how closely it tracks. That's another thing I could play with. I could soften it up if I like. Some of those transients are pretty sharp. Let's hear that with the beat again. There's my CPU again. Okay, now you might have noticed I had some modulation going on that I turned off. So the format lets me shift the whole filter bank up and down, and I have a expression control, so Max for Live device that lets you map any incoming MIDI notes or velocity or pitch bend, or there's any kind of MIDI control signal to automate anything. So I have, and it also has a random trigger. Every time it gets a MIDI note, it sends out a random value. So that is modulating the, get over here, the format, right? So that format is shifting the whole thing up and down every time one of those drum hits. Lee Robinson asked if it's kind of like, whoa, where did that go? There it is. Kind of like spectral resonator. But yeah, I'm using the vocoder as a resonator. And the spectral resonator does sound like this, although it doesn't, I guess I could kind of tune it. Maybe we should try that in a minute. I'm wondering, what would happen if we use spectral resonator on this? The difference is, like, spectral resonator has a MIDI mode where you can play the resonator from internal notes, but I can't use any sound that I want. Like with a vocoder, which is doing something similar, I can put any sound I want into it. With the spectral resonator, it's just the one resonator, right? It has its sound. So, but I could do something very similar. So that was a good thing to notice. Definitely. All right, so that you can see the format's jumping around, and sometimes it sounds darker, and sometimes it sounds brighter, and I really like that for variation. And it's random, so it's never going to do the exact same pattern. And then finally, because this is dubby, I had to add some nice stereo kind of ping pong delay to that. And I actually was also playing around with a couple of the Arturia effects. Oh, there goes the CPU again. And the kind of more offbeat analog sounding delay is coming out of the Eternity. Oh my goodness. Overheating time. All right, we have to dial this back. I know it's not going to sound as good, but let's turn that unison off. I could also, obviously using all of these voices. Let's try cutting the voices down to 16. Let's see. It might not sound quite as rich, but whatever. And it's still using CPU. It's being a hog. Still sounds all right. I like this kind of lo-fi, weird, slightly modulating echo coming out of Eternity. And then get a lot of mileage just out of playing with the vocoder. I love just like every now and then hitting a long release. It's really intense. I am really giving my CPU a workout with this. Oh my goodness. How are we doing in the chat? It's about halfway through. Let's give my computer a break for a minute and hang out. Let it cool down a little bit. And we'll just chime in here and say it is Techno Saturdays. I'm John Selway. This is 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs. And I feel good. This is like good vibes for me. This kind of music is just like, I'm in a good mood now. Totally just based on this groove. I mean, I love dancing and stuff like this. I love heavier stuff too. I love dark stuff too. I was listening to some promos this week, and I heard some like really heavy kind of halftime drum and bass, real dark, real dubby drum and bass. So like cavernous. It was like oceans of bass and so dark. And totally like it's dub, right? But a different vibe. And this is like It's kind of dubby because of the chords and the echoing and the way the bass is, but like it's definitely bright and positive and uplifting sounding. I mean, it's got a little moodiness in it because of the harmonies that I'm picking for that chord, but yeah, I love this kind of vibe, and hopefully you guys are into it too. I just want to go in and check out some of the comments. Vivian Sutherland says, this stuff sounds like a lot of the stuff played in our scene here in Providence. Very nice. Good to know. And John H. Kingston has a question. If you put a compressor on a modulated signal, does it affect or reduce modulation? That's interesting. I actually, when I'm doing vocoder voices, I find that I get a cleaner, clearer, more intelligible response when I process the incoming carrier from the mic. I'm sorry, the modulator. The mic would be the modulator if you're doing vocals. And you want to process that signal like you would if you were doing like an EQ'd compressed, like upfront vocal, right? You want to make sure you've got a high pass on the mic and you're cleaning the rumble out, and you want to, you want to maybe have a noise gate so that it sort of is tight, and rejecting any extra noise that might be coming in. And then you definitely want to add a compressor. And there's something about controlling that signal and getting it consistent and having like, the consonants and the transients that you're producing sort of shaped the right way going into the vocoder. And then the vocoder kind of has an easier job at making that vocal sound good. So yes, definitely. I think it depends on what the input is. So now you were asking about modulated signal, which means the carrier, right? And in this case, my carrier, sometimes compressing the carrier and kind of controlling the carrier or EQing it can be a good idea. In this case, I wanted all of the frequencies to come in loud, right? If I put a compressor on that sound, the higher frequencies are probably going to get pulled back or whatever. I wanted it to be like full on. So in this case, I wouldn't compress the carrier. Live does have this carrier enhance button, which does kind of normalizes the frequencies so they're all at the same level. I mean, I don't know. What does that sound like? Let's just quickly do the over-the-shoulder shot and see if I listen to... Let's go to just the straight. All right, that's what it sounds like. It's subtle. I don't know if you're going to hear it. It's a little brighter and shinier when I put the enhance on. So it's kind of, it's changing the dynamics of the frequencies. It's not exactly only compression, but something's going on there. What would it sound like if I put a compressor after the... Not much, because there's no dynamics to the carrier, right? It's just straight. It's just sort of slightly changing the tone and turning the volume up and down. But interesting question. Let's see. This is a good question from Ty Fred Torres. Very interesting question. Where did it go? You picked the notes for the chord carefully. What if you picked them totally randomly? Would the end result sound bad? I won't say bad, but it would be dissonant or perhaps even noisy. So like, if I just, let's see what happens if I just randomly pick a bunch of notes and see, all right? I'm not even listening to them, right? I don't know what notes I'm playing. And there's going to be some musical intervals in there. But all right, so that's all just a bunch of notes that we're not hearing. Let's hear what happens. Not terrible. Wait, I'm just curious. What does the chord sound like? Evil organ. That's funny. All right. It really does sound like the carrier really does sound like a ridiculous pipe organ. Very, very, very fun. All right, but no, that could work. Maybe you're doing some of dark, weird techno, like that's more hard and noisy or dissonant. Like that could work. In this case, I like the harmonious version a little bit better. Cool. All right. Let's see. And yes, Vivian, the Arturia plugins are convincing me I need to get one of those new Macs. I mean, they do work fine on a previous generation Mac. My particular MacBook Pro is having an issue. It's overheating. It normally doesn't. It normally handles these plugins fine, but I think I need to. I've been saying this for a couple months now. I've just been putting it off. I have to take it in for service and get it cleaned out and probably have the thermal gel or thermal paste on the CPU replaced because I don't think it's efficiently cooling it. Like it's always like, as soon as it gets a little bit hot, it throttles and then I lose power and then, right? So it's good that we're taking a little bit of a break here, letting it cool down just slightly, hopefully. Yeah, so I wouldn't put it all on Arturia, right? Although that said, I also really would like an M1 Mac, or maybe by the time I get it together, it's going to be an M2, and hopefully that will be even better. All right. Let's get back into it. So I've pretty much sort of shown you, the first half of this show. You've seen what I've done, right? I've shown you the sauce. I guess we could like break down the drums a little bit, and then I need to figure out like, what am I going to do with this? Do I need to add anything else to it? Do I want to just start arranging it? And that's a nice thing. Like if I keep it minimal and hypnotic and not too overly arranged, and just make it all about playing with the vocoder thing and the filtered kind of choppy dubby groove, like that could be it. I don't necessarily need to layer this up with a bunch of other stuff. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Let's dive back in, and again, we're gonna have to cross our fingers that my CPU lasts and doesn't totally sort of crap out. All right, so let's kill these drums here for a second. Yeah, let's play around with the sound. Let's think about how I'm gonna control. I'm gonna control the experience here. Like, what am I gonna do with this sort of randomly, endlessly modulating chord stab thing? I'm definitely gonna automate some reverb send. Love that. It's a really nice reverb that I found in preset and intensity that sounds great on this. Let's dial it down a little bit. It's pretty bright to start out, I think. Can tighten it up. I'm increasing the gate so it's like not quite as intense, right? I could also reduce the range so we're hearing more of the bass now. And I saw that Simple Sam says, bass, we need more bass, or we need bass. The bass is there. It's not a steady, but it's kind of, I like how it randomly does these subby notes. And they kind of sound good with these. I have an 808, kind of a filtered 808 kick as a bass stab. And I have a It's a dub tom. I was thinking, a tom would be cool, maybe like a filtered tom, and that's what I found, and I went with it. Let's hear what that sounds like with the kick drum. Could definitely start with this, and the bass is there, Simple Sam. I feel if I put like a bass line on this, it might get muddy. This is definitely a good way to start. You know what I should do? I should be recording this. I'm just gonna capture all of my ideas for playing around while we groove here. Sam says, I didn't even notice the bass before. Yeah, it's there. Like when the sound is bright, you don't hear it as much, right? That's something I need to work on, like addressing the balance of how bright it is, how is it EQ'd, how the whole mix is fitting together. But you definitely hear the bass groove now. And I'm just gonna play around with the controls. Vadimov, thanks. I very much appreciate that. Let's start brightening it up a little bit. Start to hear the little chirps coming in. I had forgotten the attack was a little bit long. I'm gonna bring that down so it just gets a little bit sharper. We're gonna hear some of the high frequencies that coming through are gonna sound a little bit more percussive, a little cleaner. Oh, I heard the CPU complain. I heard that little dropout. Definitely, I should have set up a MIDI controller for this so I could more quickly get to the parameters. Up. Look at that CPU. I don't want to stop though. We're gonna have to live with it for a minute. I love it when I just catch one of those just right. I think it's time for the hi-hat. You can just let it go like this for a while. I don't even have to get too big with it. Now I realized I started this out on the version of the chord that's not changing. So I'm gonna do an experiment and see what happens if I switch. That kind of worked because it's still reduced enough that it didn't suddenly get changed too much, right? I'm gonna go back and bring the kick drum in. It would have been good to be tweaking the vocoder there in that little break. I can go back and fix it because this is all automation. All right, that was a little much. I might have to go back and remove that one. That's a good spot. I'm gonna edit that. I like this part. I'm gonna let it ride and play with the decay on the hi-hat, which I intended to do. Just to open up a little more energy with the hi-hat. Now I'm wondering in here, like, what should I have been doing? Oh, I forgot about the gate. I was like, why is it always so choppy? Let's make it thicker by bringing the gate level back down. We should hear more mids now. I'll probably need to go in and make some edits. Okay. Let's lose the hi-hat. And lose the kick. And play around with just the lower chord instead of having it go up and down. Maybe bring it lower again. A little less bright. Oh, I like this comment. Light Society says, this is when the DJ could go have a drink while the track plays itself. Yes. There's enough variation because of that random modulating in the vocoder of the formant. Oh, that reminds me of something. All right, so I was thinking it's randomly changing. What I can see if I can like tilt it brighter or darker, like by playing with the amount or the minimum and maximum range of that value in the expression control. So if I want it to be brighter, right? So it's staying in the top half. And you can hear more of the high frequencies. So you can see the formant's tilting. It's not going below 0. Let's tilt it back the other way. Right now it's the formant's shifting lower. Right now you can see it's not going above 0, it's staying in the negative. So right now I'm not really arranging anymore. I was playing for a little while, kind of building it up and breaking it down and thinking about an arrangement roughly, just bringing the hi-hat in and out and the kicks and everything in and out, and the energy level of the modulation on the vocoder parameters. And now I'm just, let's see what happens if. I can go back and edit. I know Abe works this way a lot. He'll just randomly put a bunch of stuff in his arrangement view and then go back and fix it. So that's where I'm at right now. So now I've cut out all of the sub. So it's not hitting any of the low notes anymore. It's like just staying up there in the mids and the highs. Let's make it less bright. I've been forgetting to do the effects. What does this sound like with reverb on it? Or less delay? Love the reverb. All right, let's get weird. As if it wasn't already a little weird. I'm gonna play with the number of bands and the bandwidth so we hear more resonance on each of those bands. It's gonna be like a bunch of sine waves. And what's happening is we're gonna start hearing more of the individual frequencies. See, it's not in tune anymore, right? And if I increase the release, we're gonna hear new frequencies coming in. Now it really is a resonator. Sounds like rhythmically modulating the Star Trek Energizer sound. If I bring the bandwidth all the way down, it's really narrow. We're just hearing new sine waves. We're on another planet now. And when I narrow the range down, we start to hear more. It's like a higher resolution, like more. It's the number of bands over a narrower range of frequencies. But I can also reduce the number of bands, and then I can even just start thinking additively. Oh, the formant shifting is too dark. Let's bring that up. Oh, that hi-hat is loud. Where'd we go? What part of the solar system are we in now? How am I going to bring this back? I have to figure out how to transition back from this craziness to like the full vibe. These are all cool loops, right? All right, we're getting there. Okay, we're back. What happens if I mix the carrier in? Okay. Some of those bright ones, they're a little bit much. I can actually use this like an EQ and reduce the frequencies that are a little intense. All right, it's all over the place now. I think it's time to come back down. It's almost time. It's almost 2 o'clock. I feel like I just went on a trip. A little busy in the lows right now, I think, but it's okay. Okay. Be a nice way to end it, maybe. I have to go back and fix it, but I think we're in a good spot. A lot of fun stuff to play with. And I need to think about the arrangement. I need to think about how I'm going to end it. All right. That was awesome. I mean, if I do say so myself, I mean, that was awesome in that I feel really good about that. Again, it's good vibes today. It's hot out there, but here in New York, at least not too hot. I already was feeling good, like riding my bike around outside, and came in here, just wanted to keep that vibe going. So hopefully you all were feeling that and riding right along with me. I want to go back out and and ride again, actually. I think it's definitely a good day for a bicycle ride. I'm going to put my earbuds in and listen to some dub techno and just float around. So nice, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Before we go, let's check in with the chat one more time. Simple Sam, yes. In space, there is no time, right? Like that time I feel like the last 20 minutes is real fast. Like, now I got to go back and work. This is all saved. I'm going to save it right now. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna arrange it. This is definitely gonna be a done track, and I know I'll try to post it up somewhere so you guys can hear it, or hopefully maybe even release it. I don't know. Sometimes this stuff that I do on the stream gets put out commercially, so yeah, keep your eyes out. I'll let you know. Let's see. You guys, oh wow, so I don't even know. I'm saying I'm getting a lot of love. I really appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. That you really enjoyed that. I definitely also really enjoyed that. Are there any questions about what was going on? Thanks for the brain message. I woke up fully deaf from my right ear this past. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear, but like I hope that, yeah, I know what it's like to have ear issues. I have tinnitus and I have, all sorts of. I think actually when I had COVID, my hearing was affected. I think I'm pretty much back now, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. So good luck with that. DJ Emo, definitely. I know you guys, you've been posting a lot, and I really appreciate your enthusiasm. You have some good ideas. Thank you very much. Peter T also says, cut the drum and run a single word vocal sample through the vocoder, then slam it all back. That's a good arrangement idea. And I was thinking about that. Like, normally when you think about vocoder, a lot of people think about vocals, like robot voices or whatever. But like, if I could somehow turn this kind of dub techno modulated groove and then have it turn into speech, right? Maybe even incorporate, that's an idea. I really appreciate that suggestion. If I could maybe get some words and chop them up and insert those into the rhythm coming out of the drum kit so that every now and then it'll say like it's a word. And then you could, all right, I'm getting excited now. I'm going to have to do this again on another stream. That's a really cool idea. Thanks, Peter. And DJ Emo, this is a good comment from you. It says, stuff like this is very good ear training as you're hearing across the full spectrum textures. Exactly. Like, I agree. Like, you're not just listening to musical notes. I mean, you are, but like, you're hearing frequencies within the sound that are, and then because of the filters breaking it up into different, layers, you're hearing different parts of those notes, and it's creating something new. But you do want to make this work, you do need to listen really carefully. So practicing and being able to hear those small differences goes a long way in doing something like this successfully. So yeah, it's a good way to think about it. Anyway, I've got to get going. I know it's just 2:00, so we've made it. The bell's going off. The alarm is like, get out of here. I have to, go hop on my bike and go take care of some things. Thanks again to everybody for hanging out. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And before I go, next week, I mentioned this last time, I'm off, right? Got some family stuff, going to be on the road. So there will be no stream next Saturday. Just letting you know ahead of time. And, you know, we'll let you know when we're coming back on. Pretty sure be on again the week after. So that's it for now. Adios, everybody.